Hey, friend, Church D coming at you once again. Thank you for tuning into What Does It Take to Win? On this episode, we're going to be focusing on the topic of support. So, the official title of this episode will be called Life Support. But before we dive in, I just want to give a shout out to myself for dropping an album back in May. I just wanted to let you guys know that you can still purchase that album, or you can stream it or check it out on YouTube. The title of this album is called The Cactus, Bare Minimum 2.0. And it's like a nice jazz album. It has like a little bit of futuristic fusion in it as well. So if you're into that stuff, definitely check it out. If you're not, send it to somebody who is so I can collect my coins. No, I'm just playing. But yes, so I want to dive into the topic of support on this episode. So the official title of this episode will be called Life Support. Now, when we think of support, we often think of, let's rally around somebody and support them. And that is very important. That's crucial in being successful. If you want to succeed, you need to support others because whatsoever you sow, you reap. And on the flip side, if you want to succeed, you need the support of others. So it goes hand in hand. It's tied into one another. So let's dive right into it. I've listed 3 points here that I want to focus on and on how to show support. The first point is to listen. The second point is to put yourself in their shoes. And the final point, it deals with more so our own support. So we would need to develop a support system. So I'm going to start off by talking about sympathy. Oftentimes, when we're on the quest or we're on our journey to being successful, we go through a lot of rough situations. And I spoke about this in my previous podcast about dealing with pain and also conquering unresolved trauma. A lot of us actually, well, not a lot of us, all of us will go through a less than fortunate situation, and that can knock us off course. Now, your job as the support system is to show sympathy. So if you can, and I'm sure you can because we all have emotions and, we're not just cold-hearted people, show sympathy to those who are going through a less than fortunate situation. And show compassion too. Oftentimes we'll deal with something and we'll keep it bottled in. We won't let anybody know, like, hey, I'm going through this or this is what's bothering me. And we try to put that smile on our face, but deep down inside, it's just eating us up. So it's nice to show compassion to somebody because you never know how far that's going to go and how much that can lift their spirit. For example, somebody could have just lost everything, or they could have received bad news and they're trying to hold it together at their job or wherever they are. And something as small as a smile could really make their day. So you never know. Just always show compassion to people because whatsoever you sow, you'll reap. So yeah, let's just dive right into it. So how are we going to show support to others? Well, we can start off by listening. So this is point number 1. It's very simple. Just listen. How many times were you in a situation in which you needed to make a choice and you weren't sure what to do, but you wish you had somebody there to bounce your ideas off of? Well, listen, you can be that person to somebody. Also, when folks are going through difficult situations, sometimes they just need to vent to somebody. And you can be that listening ear. Sometimes we feel as though we may have all the answers, and that's cool. But at the end of the day, those answers aren't going to help anybody if you can't listen. It's not easy talking to a brick wall. So, yeah, just be a listener. That's key in communication as well, and that will help you with other relationships. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, and it ties in with the whole sympathy thing, put yourself in their shoes. If you were going through their situation, or if people were not supporting you, how would you feel? This will give you a better idea on how to support them. And if they're willing to accept your help, you'll be able to help them. Now, not everybody is so willing to accept help from others or listen to sound advice. In certain situations, you may have all the answers, like I had mentioned before, but when you give advice, some people just don't want to accept it. This has actually happened to me a bunch of times. I'll give you some examples. Somebody had reached out to me and they said, hey, I would like to do this. What do you suggest? And I gave them Like, I basically spoon fed them on how they could go about approaching the situation because I've been through that situation and it's part of my expertise. This person rejected my advice. Now, based off of historical data and my own experiences, the way they're planning on going about this situation, it just might not work. So if you're out there and you're listening to my podcast, hey, I'm telling you right now, you might want to rethink it and take my advice. But, you know, that's just a scenario in which you give sound advice and people just they want to reject it and say, hey, I'm going to do it my way. Then it backfires. And then you can be like, well, I told you so, but you didn't listen. Don't be like me. That's a little petty. I'm not petty, I promise, but I thought that was kind of funny. But I digress. Let's get back on topic. So just put yourself in their shoes, and think about what they may be dealing with, and how you would want to receive support in if you were in those same situations. So that was point number 2. Point number 3. Now I feel as though this is the most important point. So get your pen and papers out. You don't have to do that. You can just hit rewind. Corny joke. Sorry about that. Let me get back on topic. Yeah. So point number 3. I feel as though this is the most important point because it deals with the mind and it's more so emotional support. So 90% of what we do starts in our minds. So that's why I feel as though it's the most important point. So let me get to it. It's to develop a support system. So I mentioned that 90% of what we do starts in our mind. Once you have the proper support system, you can have wise counsel. These people can actually help you heal from your previous trauma and pain, as I mentioned in my other podcasts. And the reason why I brought up healing from your trauma or your pain is because when you're heartbroken or when your mind is just clogged with all of this negativity from what you've been through during your past, you're unable to be creative. You're unable to bring forth new ideas and actually apply them because you're just so weighed down from your past hurts. So you need to free your mind from that and get yourself into a better mental space. That way you'll be able to create freely. And then you'll notice an improvement in your products or services. And you can also be a part of that circle of counselors. So from the emotional standpoint, let's say you've felt trauma, you've felt pain, you've gone through a bunch of tough situations, right? A lot of times when we go through that, our minds are clogged with being reminded about the pain that we've dealt with. And it doesn't help us to heal. And then we have that whole, okay, I need to vent to somebody or I want to talk about this with somebody that I can trust mentality. But oftentimes we're unable to do that. I mentioned earlier on in the podcast to listen to people. Yes, that's good. However, sometimes you got to pick out who you're going to vent to and who you're going to talk to, because sometimes a listening ear isn't always just a listening ear. They may use this and hurt you in the future with the information that you share with them. So you got to be careful who you open up your heart to. So it's better to develop a support system of people who you can sort of confide in and say, hey, this is what I'm going through, or this is what I've dealt with in the past. What advice can you offer in regards to dealing with this? So develop like a small circle, perhaps like 3 to 5 people where you guys can just sort of sit down and just bounce ideas off. I think ladies, y'all do like, what is it, girl talk and stuff, and you'll have, I don't know, what do y'all do, like tea parties and stuff, or I don't know. Us guys will probably have like game night or Bible study, because that's what we do. We're men of God. Or barbershop talk, definitely. And, we just sort of bounce some ideas off of one another and just say, hey, this is what I've dealt with, or this is what I'm going through right now. What do you think about this? And I believe that will help. And if you can get some people who are older than you by at least 10 to 15 years, that will be even better, because chances are they've been there and done that. So there's nothing new under the sun. You can say, hey, I'm going through this right now. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, I dealt with that when I was your age. This is how I overcame it. So an example to all you music heads out there, those who want to produce, tour, whatever, and just have like a professional career in music, get around people who have been there and done that. And they'll offer you the best advice. So it might be a little different now because we live in the digital age and everything is being streamed and it's all on the internet. But you can't change the true art form of music. So at least you can get that solid foundation. Listen to my other podcast. You can get that solid foundation of music, musicality, like your technique and just how to be the best at your craft. And then the rest will just sort of pick up from there. And you can talk to those who are into the marketing and the whole social media thing and how to influence like a bunch of people. And you just go from there. That's a good support system. So that's like from the emotional standpoint. From the physical standpoint, if you're going to develop a support system, you need to create a team. So whether you're selling a product or a service, you need to have people in your corner that will help you to push and promote that product or service. If you're trying to do lessons for somebody, or if you're a talent and you want to be booked by people to do shows or whatever the case may be, you might want to have management. You need somebody to help you market and just do all these other things like create websites, etc. If you sell a product or a service, same deal. You want to have a management team who can help you create. And if you're doing products, you're going to need people to help you create more products because you can't create by yourself. Let's say you're selling something like, I don't know, teacups. You can't build teacups all by yourself. Eventually, once your business grows, you're going to need to either hire some more hands to help you make them or develop a factory and then pay people. So that's a little bit of a rant, but I think you know what I mean. So yes, develop a support system and you'll go far. There's a saying, and I can't remember who said it, but it's, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with somebody else. I might be misquoting it, but yeah, I didn't write this, so don't come out here trying to sue me just because I don't know who said it. But it's true. I'll talk about it from a musician standpoint. If I want to do a good sounding record, I could do it all by myself. I could program drum loops and I can actually play every instrument, but it's going to sound like me. Now, I'm a pretty cool guy. I don't mind sounding like myself. I think I'm talented. But it's going to sound like me. It's not going to have, the other elements coming from different minds. But if I were to put together a really talented band and then I sort of write out the music and instruct them how to play and say, hey, put your feel on this, it's going to be that much better. So you can't do everything alone. You're going to have to develop a support system. You can't heal alone. You're going to need to have wise counsel. If you want to create some pretty awesome ideas, bounce them off people who have been there and who have done that. People you can confide in and you can trust. Okay, so that was the last point. So just a quick refresher. The first point was to listen. It's great to have all the answers, but if you can listen, you can definitely help somebody because you'll end up helping yourself if you can listen and they can open up to you. Point number 2, put yourself in their shoes. Show sympathy. It's okay to do that. And point number 3, develop a support system. Without support, you're not going to go far. So whether it's support for a brand or a product or a service, or if it's simply emotional support, it's always good to develop a support system and encourage your teammates to win. They're your teammates, not your competitors. So take that advice and go be successful. Thank you for all of your time today. Thanks for tuning in to this podcast. I hope it blessed you. I hope it encouraged you. I hope it inspired you. Hey, if you like it, be sure to click the share button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find me on YouTube at Church D. Check out my website. I'll put the link in the description below. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.